everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Faitheismm Project podcast. It's episode 22. My name is Alan Katz. I have always been grateful to Hebrew School for making me the atheist I am today.
And my name is Randy Lovejoy, and I am a pastor who is journeying outside of the church to help people go inside of the faith. And I'm trying to figure out what word to use. Bated breath doesn't work. Excited doesn't work. I don't know. But about this topic that we're going to talk about today, because it's such a raw topic, it seems.
Timely? The word timely?
Yeah, but I kind of wanted like that word where you're like sort of excited, but sort of hesitant at the same time. I know there's some good
anticipatory,
words.
Anticipatory.
I don't know. I'm trying to wordsmith.
Dubious. Well, today the title of today's episode is "What Now?" We were supposed to do an episode about a week ago, before Roe v. Wade died, but we were going to talk about guilty pleasures. It was such a fun sounding show, and then my mom died, which is why we took a little bit of time off. I had to go east to deal with that. Mm-hmm. And now we're back, and suddenly the thought of discussing guilty pleasures seems like why
not the right time.
No. Right. Read the room, boys. Read the room.
That's right. Exactly.
So instead, we decided we would go right at it, and though we are always a little careful about wading into politics and the most current events.
Yeah.
Events have given us no choice but to talk about them. Mm-hmm. So here we are.
Yeah, and I love the title, "What Now?" because that's one of the things that just seems. I mean, there's many things that seem rather odd and dystopic about the time in which we live. I still say that, like zombie movies like World War Z, I watch them now, and it's like, come on, really? What's so weird about that? You should see the world.
What's so weird about zombies?
But it's this one thing after another kind of cycle, not only of the events that are occurring, but of the way we're responding to it. It's again and again and again, and it's issue on issue on issue, and it never feels like any of it's being resolved. There's not enough time, because then the next issue hits.
It's not just coming from one place. It's coming from every
everything.
direction.
Everything, yeah. I was talking to a guy today about Bitcoin. And El Salvador switched over completely to Bitcoin.
Yikes.
Which is crazy in a way, or incredible foresight, but it's still, at least this investment person said, Bitcoin is still, you're gambling. It says some people make great money gambling, but that's what you're doing. I've yet to hear anyone describe the mining process. Yes, right.
Any way that sounded like it wasn't fantastical.
Yes.
The whole thing sounds like a Ponzi scheme.
It does. It does. But that's, we will see. I mean, I think that's one of those things that we're going to find out, but it's so different. It's so out of the box.
Hey, this is as current event as you could possibly talk about. There's an idea underlying, Bitcoin and all these products that, okay, to get away from a centralized source that issues the money. All right, what makes a government trustworthy with anyone's money versus a collection of individuals and their what?
Right.
Now, I know that's
the question.
Yeah, I know that a government has a way that sort of kind of to back the money that it's putting out into circulation.
Depending on the strength of the government, but yeah.
Yes. And it's got a GDP, and it's got all kinds of ways to measure the value that it says its currency is worth. But the problem with Bitcoin and all these other digital currencies
Right. Right.
is that they're all sitting, the value that they're resting on is everyone's good faith, their
Yeah,
honesty.
and activity in, wanting to be a part of it. So yeah, to me, that's one of those things that it's just there is so much that's moving and shifting and changing right now.
Under our feet.
That and then on top of that, with having these protracted issues that at least some thought were settled, then be opened up again, is part of what's so challenging about living in the time that we're living in.
Well, yes, and that's the thing that makes this particular issue, what happened, what the Supreme Court did with Roe v. Wade. Every single one of those judges who threw out Roe v. Wade had said during their confirmation hearings, when they were under oath, by the way, that, hey, stare decisis, these are all settled law, would never do such a thing. Well, gosh, guys, if you look at the way that you worded your decisions, it makes you all sound like you perjured yourselves.
Well, and I think that's, I think that's where, what I'm excited to try to talk about is number one, what are the issues involved? Because I think there's multiple issues that are connected here. And
I would definitely agree. This is not just, abortion is one piece of a rather large puzzle that is in play.
Yeah, and even the decision on Roe v. Wade by the Supreme Court is one part of there's a polity issue in this related to how do we make decisions on these kinds of issues as a country, and what's the appropriate place for that decision to be made. That's one part of this. Then there's an ethical part of it as well. And then, we kind of get into the nitty gritty of abortion itself, and who's involved in abortion and who's not, and who should be, and whose rights should be protected, and all that. There's multiple layers of issues that are involved.
There's another layer as well, and that's everyone's history walking into this argument.
Yes, that's right.
What everyone said, not just today, but the day before today, yesterday, and the day before yesterday, because the fact that everyone wasn't saying what they're saying today, yesterday or the day before yesterday, the fact that people changed their positions. Oh, hey, everyone's allowed to change their position, but it's the why people change their positions, the cynicism at the heart of this that's coming from the people that it's coming from. That cynicism is part of what makes this argument that we are having collectively so unbearable.
Well, yeah, although, you've got a part of the country that's very happy with the decisions and a part of the country that isn't. So it
yes.
depends.
Now let's put all of our cards on the table, just so we all, I believe in birth control. I believe in absolute total choice, abortions. Yeah, absolutely. I don't have a problem. I think we got too many people on this planet. That's a cold thing to say, but frankly, the planet would not suffer if there were fewer humans sucking the lifeblood from this planet. Global warming, and hey, the Supreme Court just gutted the EPA's ability to keep our air clean, as another part of the thing that we are talking about today. That is part and parcel. And we will get to it.
Sure.
In a way, I'm being pushed further and further to the left. I don't wish to be pushed there, but here I am.
Yeah, I think, for me, I think there, again, the issues involved. I think there is a very real question about whether.
Where do you stand? Where do you stand on this core issue? Just as we walk in the door, where are you?
Okay, well, which part of it? Because again, There's
Abortion.
multiple issues.
Let's start with abortion.
Okay. I would say, well, all right. So are we talking about abortion from an ethical standpoint or abortion from a legal standpoint?
Let's start with a legal
what?
standpoint because that's what was just
Okay.
tugged away. Was
Yeah.
actual and women's rights to control what happens to their bodies was just taken away from them. And
From a federal and judicial standpoint, yes. But it wasn't taken away from them at a state level. It's still an open question about
it depends upon where they live, and that's
Totally.
that's
and
totally,
that's true about all sorts of things. That, I mean, whatever state you live in has a massive
a terrible
effect.
way to run a country.
I don't think so. So that's one thing we disagree on. I think states making decisions on different issues is always, it's been a part of the US since its founding.
But you now have states who are going to enforce their abortion laws by refusing to allow women to even cross the border.
We'll find out, but that's
those are the
I don't
law on
see
the books. That is on the books. This is not hypothetical. This is, and they've actually done it. They've used these laws to go after people already. It's not hypothetical.
So what you're saying is you don't trust the states, and you.
I don't trust the people who have enacted these laws because
because they're different from,
and there is unchristian a bunch of people as you could imagine.
But I mean, the fact Christianity always holds. I mean, I would strongly disagree with you in terms of feeling justified in saying that there are too many people on the planet and we do better without other humans. And I do feel like a strong part of Christianity is to deeply value human life. And I think
if only that had been the case, of course, across the entirety of its history.
Well, right. But is there any organization that hasn't been completely hypocritical in its history? I mean, that doesn't mean that it's not valid as a belief.
There's hypocritical and then there's, my main issue in the abortion question is really with the 5 of the 6 Catholic justices who are sitting on the court. Sotomayor is also Catholic, but she was appointed by Obama. She's a different type of Catholic than the other 5. But their religious beliefs is they made their religious beliefs a point of contention because they were chosen specifically because of their religious beliefs. And
so you don't think it has anything to do with the Constitution, that they're constitutional lawyers, who are now Supreme Court justices?
The last 3 justices were on lists provided by
right, but does that mean they made this decision on the basis of their faith overriding their legal jurisprudence related to the Constitution?
A decision was made back in, back in the 70s. Certain decisions were made by the people who are now rejoicing. Back in the day, I'm just going to read you a little bit this is from a piece from Politico magazine back.
Okay, but then I never got to say what my point of view was. So if it's
okay, you're right. All right, I'm going into the weeds. I apologize. Let me back up. Like sit here quietly.
Well, I mean,
finish your
statement. To me, there's at least 3 issues related to this that I think are critical for the conversation.
Zip.
One is, I do think there's an issue of polity as to, did we as a country make the right decision by deciding the abortion issue through the court system as opposed to through Congress or at the state level? And I think the majority of other countries have made the decision through what would be their version of Congress.
Yes,
through
absolutely
a bill,
true.
Discussion, and a law.
No argument.
And I think that is a much better way to make a decision on these kinds of issues than through. I think we're very strange. We are an outlier in terms of the way that we decided this. So I do think there's a real question about, is there a better way to do this?
Yes.
That would then be better for everybody that lives in this country. So I feel like, at least from that sole point of view, that what's going on right now is revisiting that issue, and it still has the possibility over time of being a longer term corrective and helping us find a better way to deal with this issue.
I agree with you completely, Randy, completely.
Okay, as far as the other part of it that's critical to me in terms of my approach to abortion is that it seems to me that people on the far left see the abortion equation, so to speak, as A equals A, meaning there's only one person involved in the decision, and it is the pregnant adult, and everything needs to be determined according to the pregnant adult. On the right is a view that, at the extreme right at least, is the view that there's only one person involved, and it's the baby, and the rights of the woman are overridden by the rights of the baby.
I think that's a very good analysis.
And so in my view, it's actually, the equation is not A equals A or B equals B. It is A plus B equals question mark.
Okay, fair enough.
And there's a being and a potential being that are involved in the issue, and they both need to be taken into account in the complexity of this. It's not a simple issue in my view. It's a complex issue.
The question mark then would be when the being goes from being potential to more than potential.
Not really. I mean, to me, that's an issue, but I think the primary issue, I would add a letter C to the equation. A is the adult, pregnant adult. B is the baby, and C is the whole context of their pregnancy and their situation. And I think those things are the most important, because it is different for different people. People become pregnant in different circumstances and in different situations. And I think those situations have a real impact on what we should decide as a nation, what kind of agreement we should make, or as states or whatever, about what's allowed and what's not allowed.
Okay.
So I think that's where, and then ethically for me, I have no problem with where we were at one point as a country, but we missed our window of opportunity, where really the main focus was on saying, that the abortion is always legal, or a legal option for women in the case of mother's health, incest, rape. No problem there at all. And then what we just have to figure out is what's the amount of time within which you need to make a decision of whether you're going to have the child or not.
All right. So we're actually rather probably closer together than not.
I do think there's a length of time that's too long, and that's where the B of the equation becomes more important. But yeah, so that might be a difference as well. And ultimately, I would see it as a tragedy no matter what happens. Whereas I have heard people that really just, one woman was talking about it as if it was a colonoscopy, which I find offensive personally, but I don't think that's taking it's a much more complicated situation. And I don't think a baby or a potential baby is something other than a bowel movement. And so to put those two together really ticked me off. But anyway, all that's it.
All right, let me approach it this way then. What the Supreme Court just did asserted a rather particular religious perspective. It reflected what I would call a rather Catholic perspective on the subject. Now,
well, and again, I'll go with you on that, but I just want to, I'm
going someplace very much in particular. As far as I know, Catholicism is not the state religion of this country, and neither is Protestantism.
That's why JFK had a hard time getting elected, was because people were afraid that Catholics would start to take over the country.
I wonder,
sounding similar to those who were against JFK.
Yes, and I want to revisit. Well, it's when the country was founded. Amongst the signers of the documents, there were just 3 Catholics, total 3. Total. If you had told the founders that, hey, guess what, someday 6 of the 9 of the Supreme Court, and yeah, there are going to be 9 members of the Supreme Court, they're going to be Catholic, their heads would have exploded. That would have been completely antithetical to the country that they were imagining, because the majority of the people who founded the country did not care for the papacy. I'm just pointing to some of the funny ironies that rattle around American history. The problem, though, is that Jewish law is quite different on this subject.
Sure. Yeah.
Rabbinic law is quite specific about who we care about more and who we care about less, and where all the values are. And for instance, I'm just going to read to you a little bit. This is from the National Council of Jewish Women. All right, this is from their website, answering the question, does Jewish law state that life begins at conception, which is what some states are doing now here in this country? No, life does not begin at conception under Jewish law. The sources in the Talmud note that the fetus is mere water before 40 days of gestation. Following this period, the fetus is considered a physical part of the pregnant individual's body, not yet having life of its own or independent rights. The fetus is not viewed as separate from the parent's body until birth begins and the first breath of oxygen into the lungs allows the soul to enter the body. All right, I'm just giving you what.
Right, which that seems like a random place to start life as well, just as random as anything else, but that's.
I'm telling you what Jewish law is.
I know, and I'm telling you that one of the reasons children have rights has to do with Christianity, because if you look historically, children are not considered human even after birth for quite a while. And it was through, that's why, there's a whole host of laws that were developed because of the Christian take on the rights of children. So I hear you, I get it. I'm just saying that
be that as it may, this is not a Christian country. And to have
this is not a Christian country? Is that what you said?
There are a lot of Christians in it, but it is not a Christian nation. In other words, we do not have a state religion that is Christian.
True, but the culture that we live in has been so massively influenced by Christianity that I think you can't
that is neither here nor there. We do not have a state religion.
Why is that neither here nor there? I think you're completely.
But you could make the same. You could make the same argument that the Jewish religion has influenced an awful lot of what we call Christianity, and
I would be happy to do that. I have no problem with that at all.
But that does not make it law, and I cannot take that into a court of law and do anything with it.
Right, but see, the whole path of this conversation that bothers me and worries me actually is apparently there was a Harvard bioethicist that said the only people that have any problem with abortion are Christians, and we shouldn't be pandering to them or something to that effect. I think to pick a certain religious group of people and lay the blame on them for this is very dangerous and historically a scary thing to do.
But is it not?
So
but what if
it is not what happened? I'm sorry, it's not. So I given that what they did is they rolled back something that pre-1970 wasn't there, then they didn't come up with it because of Catholic doctrine. Now their dogma may have enabled them to roll it back, but it didn't come from there. It didn't come from Catholicism.
Do you know when the Catholic Church officially made abortion verboten?
When?
1965.
Okay, that was a day. That was a year I was born.
It took them 2,000 years. It took them 2,000 years to make it official.
So are you upset about Christianity or about the Constitution? Because I think that's part of what needs to be
if you're going to try to legislate your religion, and it ain't my religion, hey man, at least be consistent. Don't go, all right.
What's inconsistent about
defense, there were people arguing for it, for quite a long time. Yeah. You go back a ways and see it. They've been having that argument, but you could also point this out. They don't give communion to preborn babies because they're not people. They don't give them communion when they die. Hey, that's just the Catholic Church living by the lines that it's drawn in the sand. Make
Right.
up
So
your
you
minds,
feel like
guys. Which is it?
Catholicism, but what I'm hearing is the path you're on is Catholicism screwing up this country.
Well,
and see, that scares me. That really scares me.
it's
because that's how we start justifying persecution of certain groups of people, because they're the ones that are the problem.
when powerful people of that persuasion who very much, hey, we are of this tribe, deliberately attempt to shove their beliefs down everyone else's throat, I'm going to have a problem,
be
because
really
I'm
careful.
one of the people whose throat is going to be
just be really careful about what you do on that path, because that's not too far from developing pamphlets that are anti-Catholic. All sorts of really bad things happen in history when people do that. So I just think
my tribe has been on the receiving end of their
exactly. So that's why you shouldn't be doing this. That's why you should not be walking down this path.
So you're saying lie there and take it?
No,
yes,
come on.
You
I am not. This is a democratic country. The Catholics do not run the country.
It is not a democratic country. It is no longer a democratic country. And the
Supreme Court just completely disagree with you. Their democracy is happening right now in every state, as they're all struggling with the issue and how they're going to put it together. That's democracy in action. It is.
In theory, yes.
No, in practice, it's happening right now.
In practice, we're not doing this very well at all.
Well, democracy is incredibly messy. It always is. It's a process, and it's going to take a while, and things are going to have to happen. And what we need to do is use our rights as part of a democratic country to get our state on board, and then to elect people into Congress that will come up with a bill that supports our approach.
Okay,
now hopefully we'll come up with something.
Now, what if, as part of this democratic process, because I'm with you, I'm absolutely with you. I love the democratic process. I believe in it. As part of the democratic process, we're talking about the will of the people. Yes, the democratic will of the people. If the democratic will of the people,
not really the will of the people solely. It's not a pure democracy. But it's it's a republic.
You switch democracies on me. One moment it's the will of the people can change what we do about abortion, and the next the will of the people can't do anything.
Well, it's the will of the people through their representatives. That's how our system works.
Through their representatives and through the government that represents us goes to prosecute certain people for committing crimes against this democracy. Is that okay? I'm asking neutrally.
Crimes against this democracy? What does that mean? I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what do you mean specifically? I don't understand what we're talking about.
All right. There's, amongst the other things that is huge news at this time, we have the January 6th commission, which is investigating what happened during the insurrection. At the same time, we have the Department of Justice seriously looking at possibly indicting a former president.
Right, which almost never happens in any other society in this world. So the fact that we're even thinking about it is a big deal.
Is it good or bad?
It's good.
Good. Okay, we're on the same page. Good. Okay. So, all right.
Of course it is. Why would I think it's not good to look into that? I think that's amazing.
Is it not too political?
Too political?
Yes.
I don't know why would you, how could anything but related to a president be too political? I don't know how you're using that word.
What I'm asking is, all right.
I mean, their lives are political. Everything's political once you're in that kind of a position. So
what brought us to this moment, this Roe v. Wade moment, but also the death of the EPA, pretty much. No gun control to speak of, because now New York State can't even regulate guns that can be on, you can bring any guns you want into New York, just like you can DC now because of Heller. The Supreme Court, the majority that's sitting there now, the three justices that made it a supermajority were put there by Donald Trump.
Right. And through processes that we've had as a nation for a long time, and they played the game right. I mean, they won the game right now.
How they won the game is going to be the problem, because
why was he not? Oh, because he wasn't elected. Is that what you're saying? Or what?
I haven't said that yet. Well, Donald Trump was not elected during the last election. In 2020, in fact, the problem is he was not elected, and he had a problem with that, and he tried to
yeah, that's fine. I hope he's not elected again. I truly
he didn't accept the fact that he was not elected, and he tried to hold on to power, though the will of the people.
Sure, but that doesn't have anything to do with the Supreme Court justices. But yeah,
well, it does. Well, it absolutely does. And but one of the decisions they just said they were going to pick up for next term is exactly the point of the whole exercise, because they said they were going to take up a point where suddenly in each state by state, they could toss out the legitimate electors and put whatever electors they want. Now, why would you possibly want to go down that road? It is all part of the same.
All right, so you see it as a huge conspiracy.
It's the same group of people with the same plan. It's not this group of people over here and that group of people over there. It's literally the same people really trying to accomplish the same end. That's the problem. Unfortunately, the Roe v. Wade decision is not isolated, not even remotely. It is part of a much larger power grab. It is.
Well, I don't know what to do with those types of arguments, because I feel like at that point there's so much hearsay and selective.
But you have other, but there are Republicans saying that Liz Cheney, who was part of the committee, she's Dick Cheney's daughter. By every other subject, every other issue that exists, I disagree with Liz Cheney completely. But when Liz Cheney talks about this, I agree with her. This was a power grab by her political party. This is what she herself is saying. Well, okay.
So why doesn't she do something about it? I mean,
she is part of this commission. She is trying to bring an end to it. She is doing everything within her power, and her party is trying to kick her out. The problem is,
but the thing, Alan, is there's stuff like this going on both sides. Seriously,
that is not true. Both sides are not trying to.
It's not true because you're on the righteous side.
But
I get it.
But both
and
sides
if I was talking to somebody in another side of the country, they would say exactly what you're saying about the Democrats, and they would say it's not true that they're doing it.
Randy,
and
the
that's
Democrats
where
are not
the
trying
big
to undermine.
lie is.
The Democrats are not trying to undermine democratic principles. They absolutely.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Please provide a receipt. In what way are the Democrats undermining the democracy of this country?
In what way are they
undermining? Are they attempting to undermine? Are they trying to throw out the one person, one vote rule? Are they trying to take away anybody's vote? Are they doing anything to prevent anyone from voting?
I will be happy to collect a selection of items please, for a future podcast. But here's the thing underlying it, though, is that we're not going to get anywhere as a country as long as one side feels like it's the righteous side and the other side is the evil cabal that's going to take over the world. That we're never going to solve that, and it's going to end up in something really bad that we'll all regret later. So that's my underlying intuitive approach, is that there isn't one side that's righteous. There is not. There simply is not. Both sides are very self-interested.
No one ever has to take responsibility for anything. It's always, well, hey, if you blame them, then hey, both sides do it. This is.
I'm about everybody taking responsibility.
We never punish anybody for anything except for poor people. We never punish rich people with power and money.
Yeah, but they always seem to get away with it. I can't argue with stuff like that because these are massive generalities and it's coming from all over the place. And I don't feel like I know. I mean, that's why I was wanting us to get focused on what are those particular issues involved, because I felt like then we could actually get somewhere in the conversation. But what I'm finding is happening all over this country is that you can't get any traction on anything because we jump from thing to thing and we move into conspiracy theories. And it's just, there's no way to actually get anywhere useful if one side is totally wrong and the other side is totally right. Then the only way to move forward is for the totally right people to win over the totally wrong people. And I don't know how you do that in a country as divided as ours, outside of violence. So, and I don't want to go, I'm not going to go that path. I'm not going to go.
One side is threatening violence and the other side is not. Both sides are not threatening violence.
Come on.
Because
Seriously.
both sides are not armed to the teeth. Look,
Well,
I also
there has been violence on both sides. There has been. I mean, come on. You really don't think there's been any violence on the left for the last 2 years or whatever?
Not compared to the violence, nothing even remotely like it.
Again, don't take responsibility because the other side's worse than us, so we're better. But see,
people
that's
on the
my
left
deal.
do not, but Randy, people on the left do not bring guns to protests. We don't. We bring our words and we bring protest signs. I can show you pictures of. I can show you pictures. In fact, there's what was that kid who decided he had to cross a border with a gun. He was 18 and he had to cross a border with a gun to go protect something that had nothing to do with him. And he ended up killing 2 people. So if you just use
rocks and destruction of property, that's okay, but guns, that's where the line is drawn. Is that what we're saying?
Well, if I were to draw a line, I would definitely draw a line there because.
Well, I would draw a line on violence in all forms is not an appropriate way for us to solve issues in this country. It's just
I would agree. And I think the balance, there's a tremendous balance that we could get lost in the weeds of statistics, but let's not. If we go back,
right, because I took research methods in sociology, and one of the things I learned early on is you can use data to support whatever your ideas are. And so the challenge with data and statistics is actually finding statistics, looking at statistics that work for your side and against your side, and then trying to figure out, what's really true. But even data and statistics, do not tell us what's really going on.
They don't. But if you looked into the data about who owns all the guns in this country, it's a slim majority of people who own an incredible amount of guns.
And I wouldn't argue that. And I mean, and I wish there weren't as many guns out there either, but I don't see that as relevant to what we're talking about. I think that's a separate issue.
The problem is, and I appreciate that. Yes, it would be great to be able to isolate abortion and just talk about abortion all by itself as if it was unconnected to everything around it.
But if we're going to talk about everything around it, we're never going to get anywhere. I mean, that's not going to happen.
But if you divorce abortion from everything else, then you have to talk about it artificially as if it didn't have anything, as if it was isolated, and it's not. I think that's not.
Well,
that's it. That's missing perspective to think you can just take that issue all by itself.
But we haven't even talked about the issue itself very well. I mean, we haven't even dealt with just that divorce from everything else. We're and again, I'm just saying this because I think this is what's happening in our country. These are the kinds of conversations that people are having, and it gets nowhere. There is no traction. Nothing's decided. No forward steps are taken. And you go across 45 different issues saying they're all connected, which they may be or they may not be, but it's just we can't get anywhere if we're gonna if this is the way our public discussion goes. You just can't get anywhere.
Okay, with the 10 minutes that we have left, because I got to get out of here at 5. And as we always discover, as soon as we go to politics, man, it all just goes to hell around here.
That's right.
That's right. Okay. But hey, we keep trying, damn it. We keep trying. All right. If you could solve the abortion problem yourself, what would you do?
I think I would stick with and I think at the state level thus far, from my reading, which you may think or know otherwise, but from my reading, the health of the woman and cases of incest and rape have not been made illegal. I think that's a good move forward. I think there needs to be a discussion in this country about the length of time that women have with an unwanted pregnancy to make a decision about having an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that those that are celebrating the repeal of Roe v. Wade have a big job ahead of them now to help our society to beef up the way that pregnant mothers who are now coming to term are supported, are strengthened, and if they want to put their kids up for adoption, that there are really good adoption services for those children. So that's a ton of work that'll take a very long time. I think that needs to happen too. And I think there's a wide variety of decisions globally about how long you can legally abort your child. I think Germany's fairly short from what I understand. And then Britain's like 24, 25 weeks, which I think's an extremely long period of time for that. I think that's overdoing it. But so, my hope would be that at the state level, we let this state thing go forward, and then eventually that our Congress people would get gutsy enough to decide to develop and pass some legislation on this issue. But I recognize that there's a lot of ungrounded hope, especially in the congressional side of things. And yeah, in the meantime, I would definitely
should states be allowed to pursue women who cross state lines?
No, I think that's something that, because to me that runs counter to a lot of other things that's so great about the United States, being able to travel from state to state freely, and I think that's an unfair way to set it up in terms of women do get to make the choice if they want to drive to Illinois from Alabama or something. They have the right to do that.
Should the authorities be allowed to investigate a woman who has a miscarriage?
No, and I'm pretty sure that's a red herring. So yeah, you may disagree with me, but I think those things, I don't see those on the horizon, and I don't think those would carry any water in this country. So.
Social media notwithstanding, you don't think there are ways to go after women, someone who is less than honest, to go after women, especially if there's money involved, because Texas will pay you. There's $10,000 in Texas. There's a bounty. They'll make it worth your while.
I'd have to see proof of that, and again that. And a miscarriage.
It's there in Texas state law.
I will talk to my family who are from Texas and
proud of it. You don't make you rich.
See, that's the other thing. I'm sorry, but I'm from Texas, and I'm just tired of Texas getting kicked around on all these issues, because it's like, come on, Austin is packed with far left liberals. So it's not like Texas.
But that's not how Texas works. Texas has a weird government. In fact, it's not even the lieutenant government has most of the power in the state. It's really weird. Texas is.
Hey, they had their own president for a while. So
yeah. So
that's part of the character of the place. But see, that's why I like states.
According to BBC News, I'm just seeing right here. This is a BBC News headline: U.S. women are being jailed for having miscarriages. That's
okay. Well, I will research that. I would stand directly against that if that's what's happening.
That's just that's the BBC reporting it as we.
I know, but the BBC has gone downhill a lot. I used to love.
They're not going to report that sight unseen. They're not going to stick
the BBC. Come on, man. They are so slanted. They were not when I was in high school. They have become so slanted to one side, and it's irritating. And I'm not the only one that says that. There are other British commentators that are disappointed with the BBC's coverage. So I would have to check that. Just because it's in the BBC does not mean that they got it right. But again, a miscarriage, how would a miscarriage be something that's punishable? That doesn't make sense.
Because did the woman do something deliberate? Was she careless?
Well, again, that's where the point to me, it's like that's not the issue for the legal system to determine. The legal system, in my view, sets up a fair playing field, and then they get out of the way, and people make choices and bear the responsibilities. So that's stepping way over the line.
If you were running it, we would be in much better shape than we are today, Randy. I sure wish it was your hands on the wheel. We'll try to bring this around to a close without killing each other.
Well, I mean, again, the weird thing to me is that we have a number of things in common related to the particular issue of the legal setup for abortion in the U.S.
Yes.
Where we go, in different directions is once we move outside of that into wider issues. And I think that's where, and again, I don't think we're unusual in that. I think
no. But look, hey,
that's what happens.
The point of the whole thing that we're doing here is that we just had this conversation about this really hard topic, and we disagree really in the strongest possible terms about some very basic things, and we're still talking to each other.
Exactly. And that's the only way the US is going to get through any of this.
This is it.
Is by doing that. That's the only way, because the fact is we are a very diverse country with very different cultures, and we're not going to agree on a lot of issues. And so
not for the time being. Not for the time being, I don't think. Yeah, no,
I don't think we ever will. I think the trick, though, is not to convince each other to think in the same way. The trick is to figure out it's like what a lot of families end up having to do. But it's like, how do we do life together, given our differences of opinion, but we do life together in a way that's beneficial for all of us.
This is a very hard conversation to have, an incredibly hard conversation to have. It's unpleasant even for people who like each other. But
it is
learning how to.
Yeah, sorry, go for it.
I'm just learning how to do this. This is a muscle we all need to develop.
Yes, amen to that. I feel like, as a pastor, I went into pastoring just to help people, but I didn't realize that helping people meant that I would be the lightning rod sometimes. And so I had to develop a thick skin while trying to keep a soft heart.
Yes.
And I think that's a similar thing with these conversations is, because we're moving into territory that's there's tension, there's
oh boy.
So if you're going to have those conversations, you got to develop a thicker skin with each other, and that's okay, and I mean, I'm interested. The thing I want to think about for a future conversation is there's a couple of underlying issues I think that popped up as we talked that I think in themselves would be fascinating. I'm
going to have to jump off in 1 minute. So
yeah. So anyway, so why don't you do?
I'm so with you.
Do it on that bombshell so that you can edit that in. So you got one?
And on that bombshell,
we are heading into the next one. Now, thank you everybody for joining us. We hope that you have some challenging conversations too on this issue, because we've got to talk about it. That's the way forward, I think, no matter what.
We have to talk.
We will
have to learn how to talk. We have to do it.
And we'll keep, I'm sure, as we have November coming up and 2024, there's all sorts of exciting political issues we'll have to discuss. Yeehaw, yippee-yi-yay.
Laissez rouler les bon temps. Until next time, everybody.